we're starting late. All right, let me get my agenda in order here. Town of North Smithfield Planning Board for Thursday, August 25th, 2022 is called to order at 7:10 p.m. Thanks for your patience while the voting was taking place. First order of business is roll call. Dr. Benoit?
Here.
Mr. Fournier?
Here.
Mr. Punchak?
Absent.
Mr. Porter?
Here.
Mr. Keene?
Here.
Mr. Menard?
Here.
And the chair is here. Next on the agenda, we're going to review the minutes from the June 9th and June 14th meetings, starting with the June 9th. Give you a moment to look at them.
Just making sure. You're sitting on mine. Somebody stop it.
Any questions or comments from the board on the meeting minutes for Thursday, June 9th, 2022?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as is for Thursday, June 9th.
We have a motion to accept, and we have a second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. The meeting minutes for June 9th are accepted as is. Now for the meeting from July 14th. Anybody take a moment to look at them? Sounds like beach traffic when they're on their way back. Stuck on Route 4.
They're getting rowdy after the concert.
Any questions or comments on the meeting minutes from July 14th? No?
I'll make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes for July 14th.
As is?
As is.
As is. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
And we have a second. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Minutes for Thursday, July 14th are also accepted as is. Next on the agenda, any planning board members have anything to disclose for potential conflicts on the matters before the board this evening?
I will state that in spite of the common last name, I am not a partner in this venture. I have no interest financially or otherwise.
All right, thank you. Anything? Nothing? All right. Any planning board members need to disclose any ex parte communications about any of the contested or material adjudicatory facts concerning the merits of any application before the board this evening? Hearing none. Okay. Voting members for this evening. Let me take a look. We have Mr. Fournier, Mr. Porter, Mr. Keene, Mr. Menard, and myself. Those are voting members for this evening. Next item. Storage Rentals of America. The applicant is Storage Rentals of America, 395 Eddie Dowling Highway, Assessor's Plat 13, lots 103 and 104. The master plan was approved at July 14th, the July meeting, but by oversight, we did not also vote on making a positive or negative recommendation to the Zoning Board of Review. That is what our business is on this project for this evening. So,
You only need a motion?
Bobby, could you give us any little background on that?
Sure. They need a special use permit for a storage facility in the BH district. That's the first special use, and then they need a special use for development in the water protection overlay district. Those are the two special use permits that they're going to the zoning board for.
But this is for the expansion of the current storage facility there,
This
correct?
is an expansion of they're gonna, a demolition and expansion of the storage facility, a 61,000 square feet,
Okay.
3-story storage building.
Okay. So, as I said, we did approve the master plan there. Any comments based on what we heard last meeting? Any questions or comments on this before we take a motion? Okay,
I'll make a motion to give a positive review to the zoning board of review,
positive recommendation.
positive recommendation.
Okay, we have a recommendation for positive, we have a motion for a positive recommendation to the zoning board.
For the two,
Yeah,
one
there's
is
two.
for, one was for special
One was
use.
for
permit.
the storage unit in a BH district, and the other one was for development in the water protection overlay district.
So is it two separate motions?
Well,
Well, one
motion
for both, positive recommendation for both.
Yes,
You can do that.
yeah, we'll do that.
yeah, I would second that.
Okay, we have a second, so any further comments before we vote? Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Fournier,
Yes.
Mr. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Keen,
Yes.
Mr. Menard,
Yes.
chair votes yes. So we approve the positive recommendation to the zoning board with our apologies for not picking it up last meeting. Next on the agenda, for discussion, consideration, and action, green development, request for bond release. Mr. Kevin Moran, Green Development, but I don't believe Kevin Moran is here. Let's see, prior to starting the green development solar project on Iron Mine Hill Road, a baseline road inventory was completed on Iron Mine Hill Road due to concerns about potential damage during construction. The baseline survey was performed by Beta Engineering in 2020 due to concerns about,
I know
I'm
that
sorry.
sentence, just ignore the next sentence.
yes, got it. Green Development requested Beta perform a re-inspection of Iron Mine Hill Road along the construction route now that construction and major site work on the Iron Mine Hill project is substantially complete. Based on Beta's roadway and evaluation conclusions, specifically, it was found that the RSR slightly dropped from 80 to 78. This slight decrease in RSR is due to the introduction of low-severity alligator cracking and the formation of minor depth potholing. This is likely due to general roadway deterioration over the course of 2 years. On average, the road will deteriorate 1 to 3 RSR points annually. Overall, it was determined that the roadway is still in good condition and there is no significant evidence of any deterioration caused by trucking related to this project.
Mr. Chairman, I just
Yes.
want to make a correction. Beta did the original inspection. PAR did the second re-inspection in 2022. It wasn't Beta.
Oh, they did the follow-up?
Yes.
PAR did? Thank you.
Yes.
And Bobby,
Yes.
Pear was our peer reviewer during the whole project, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. So,
So I think we're just looking for a vote of whether to release the bond or not release the bond. It was also supported by the DPW Director,
Right.
just,
but there are multiple bonds associated with the project, correct?
this is the $150,000 bond for the road.
Right, is there a formal name for this bond? Because obviously there's an overall bond for the project, you know, for decommissioning and all that kind of stuff. I just want to make sure that we properly reference the bond.
I think we can go right off
Yeah,
the subject of the email, bond release for roadway. If you look at the email
Mhm.
that Bobby attached.
It's on the back of the email I sent you.
It
It's
would be.
bond, I don't know if you see it, it's on the back of the email from Ray Pendergast. It's bond number 190041183 for $150,000.
There we go.
Right-of-way obligation per final plan,
And-
application, major land development, decision of approval per item number 6.
Hang on, I'm looking for that magic number you just read off.
Could you read that number again, please?
Oh, I've got it. It's on the Liberty Mutual docs.
It's 1823,
Okay.
1823.9, right?
Thanks. So just to be specific, what we're referring to
Okay.
is bond number 190041183, performance bond issued by Liberty Mutual Surety So, and as you said, it's for $150,000, and it's specific to
That's the,
covering any damage to the roadway.
that's not the number that.
Yeah, the number that's on mine is in 1823.9.
No, no. Last page, Liberty Mutual Surety, not the email.
Right, I'm going
So-
by the actual Liberty Mutual document.
Okay,
Okay. So that's the number 19.
yes.
That's where it goes. So the email may be an error. That's,
Or it just might be the Pears project number.
yeah, it may not be the
Yeah.
bond
Oh,
number.
okay.
So
It's at the back of your packet.
I'm just gonna get, are these gentlemen with green?
Pardon me?
No?
No.
They're not, okay, great. Okay, so now that we have the specific bond is, it's right on that document, exactly.
So I can make a motion to release the bond number 1900411183 for $150,000 for the road, for the Iron Mine Hill Road.
Could I amend onto that at the recommendation of the Director of DPW?
Right, all right.
And our peer review.
And our peer review company.
Okay, so we have a motion to release the bond based on the recommendation of our Director of DPW and peer review. Any discussion before we get a second? No? We need a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Mr. Menard. Roll call vote. Mr. Fournier,
Yes.
Mr. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Keen,
Yes.
Mr. Menard,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So, release that bond. Bobby, would you make sure that we document that use the bond number off of
Absolutely,
the Liberty
sure.
Mutual document? Okay.
Just so everybody's aware, Attorney Archambault is on the phone, on the speakerphone, so if there's any questions that we need to ask of him, he is available.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that one. Okay, next on the agenda, public hearing, major land development, Anchor Nissan, location 949 and 969 80 Dowling Highway, Assessor's Plat 17, Assessor's Lots 80, 84, 199, and 231. Applicant Benoit Residential Realty, no relation to Dr. Benoit, and Benoit Realty LLC. Purpose of the public hearing is to consider the land development project for preliminary approval. I believe we didn't, what did we do last meeting with this? We did do master plan, okay. So the applicant, Anchor Nissan, is proposing to raise an existing 19,886 square foot commercial building and build in a new 28,570 square foot Nissan dealership and a 17,550 square foot reconditioning building to house the operations and staff displaced by the removal of the existing building. The new dealership is proposed to be located within the area north of the current Anchor Subaru dealership. The subject property is zoned business highway. So, all right. Okay, anything you want to add to that, Bonnie?
I just wanted to add, I went through the recommendations from the master plan and pared that down to the stipulations I meant.
Right,
So those are the stipulations that are here on this preliminary plan, are the
Right.
stipulations that they have not met up to this point.
okay. Okay. Anything, would you like to? Yep.
Open the hearing, or are you just gonna let him
No.
talk first?
Well, this is, you represent Anchor Subaru. Right, so that's not the hearing, right. Go ahead.
My name is Scott Partington. And normally, they don't need mics on my voice, but my name is Scott Partington. I represent the applicant in this case. My offices are at 2176 Mendon Road in Cumberland. And as you indicated, Mr. Chairman, this matter is here on preliminary approval on a major land development. We received master plan approval back at the February meeting, Initially, I just would like to thank Ms. Monahan for her assistance and consideration in getting this matter on the agenda. I know she's been kind of doing the work of two for a while, so we sincerely appreciate her efforts. Also, as the chair indicated, he explained the basic tenets or the parts of the application and the reason therefore there's going to be a minor subdivision that's going to combine 4 existing lots into 2 new conforming lots, raising a building and constructing 2 new ones. As it was explained again and was considered at the master plan, as to the stipulations, I think that's how Ms. Monahan termed the items that were listed on the agenda. My understanding is that that there was a revised stormwater plan and soil erosion sediment control plan was submitted. I'm not sure if we have that, but I was informed by Mr. Casale's office that that was supplied. Also, the westerly line of 167 was shifted, as was requested by the planning department as well. This project, I think what's important too about it is that in essence, we're not increasing, there's no change in use, there's no increase in actual traffic on the site, and also there's nothing in the state right-of-way that we're affecting at all. With respect to the other items and the stipulations, and again, I think Mr. Casale in his PowerPoint, and I'm sure Mr. Benoit at some point has any questions with some of these stipulations, he will address those. I don't know if you can recall, and you guys hear a lot of cases, but I recall at the last meeting at Master when there were certain issues discussed with respect to water that I had suggested, requested really, that in light of the nature of that situation, that we weren't held with absolute preconditions with respect to the water. And I recall the planner at that time saying, well, there are really more potential options. And I think that, I think I can leave it at that for purposes at this point. Mr. Casale, again, in his inimitable fashion, is going to go through this with a PowerPoint. And again, I believe if there's any other questions, Mr. Benoit is here to respond to any of those as well. And anything legal at all, you can run that by me as well. Thank you very much.
Members of the board, Mr. Chairman, good evening. Just for the record, my name is Joe Casale. I'm a registered professional engineer. Offices at 300 Post Road in Warwick. If I may, just draw your attention to the screen. It'll be easier to convey what it is we're trying to accomplish tonight. So you see a portion of the anchor campus framed by Sales Hill Road in Route 146. But tonight we're here on 4 specific lots. AP 17, Lot 80. That's the lot that houses the existing administrative offices, the reconditioning building, and it was once the old Subaru building. Then there's AP 17, Lot 84. That is the lot that now frames the new Subaru building. You also have 17, Lot 199, which is all inventory parking. And then there's also Lot 231, Assessor's Plat 17, again, all inventory parking. And what we're trying to accomplish, being that all of this, as Attorney Poddington said, is in the business highway district, you can see a majority of the campus is, and it's flanked by your residential suburban zone and your agricultural residential zone, is we want to extinguish those existing property lines, and then we'll just have 2 clean lots. And so the new lot would be considered Lot 84. It's just short of 5 acres, and it would encapsulate not only the new anchor dealership that was recently built, but also that peripheral parking. And then we'll also have Lot 80, which will be about a 3.5 acre site that we can propose the new dealership. And there's also, and we'll show you in a little bit, the administrative subdivision. The planner wanted us to just straighten out these lines, making this lot 167 a little bit larger. And so that's the administrative subdivision that would be contingent upon approval, that we would just sort of clean up some of these lot lines now that the new buildings are taking place. So in essence,
Excuse me, Mr. Catali, just a point of clarification. When you first were going through the lots, you had referred to lot 80 as being on Assessor's Plat 15. It is actually on Assessor's Plat 17.
I'm sorry, they're all
Yeah.
on Assessor's Plat 17, 199, 84, 80, yes, and 231.
Okay, I
Thank
just
you for
wanted-
that correction.
yeah.
So when we end up with lot 80, Assessor's Plat 15, lot 80, that 3.5 acre piece, you will see that it is the applicant's intent that we're gonna raise that old dealership building, and that we'll be able to ultimately create a new Nissan dealership. It's a sizable building, very similar to the Subaru building. It's about 28,500 square feet. You can see the floor plans very similar in that, you know, that we need to have the mechanics working, and you have different flows and so forth and so on within the building. The building elevations are gonna be very similar skins to what you see on the site now. You know, it's that metal type skin that's proprietary in terms of the coloring, that Nissan, you see the sign that exists out there today, very similar to Subaru. And then ultimately, this is going to be the reconditioning area. That's the 17,500 square foot reconditioning area that we'll be displacing from here. Very standard, utilitarian, straightforward, just any type of auto prep and detailing. As you know, if you've been to the facility, the cars get cleaned as they move through. Again, utilitarian in nature. This too, the skins will mimic. We want this to look like an entire campus that's homogeneous. The skins will mimic that. But in terms of construction, the plan is, first, we've got to take all of our administrative staff and bring them over here to the reconstruction. We'll then be able to build the Nissan dealership, and then ultimately we can bring the office people from reconditioning into the Nissan today. We'll fit that out and then go back to actually having reconditioning again. So, you know, he has that existing operation. We're gonna try to build this dealership within that small confine and keep everybody going. So, you know, expect us to raise this building, to build this so that we can displace administrative staff in there, be able to build our dealership, move administration over, and then ultimately be able to use reconditioning for what its ultimate purpose is. You'll see some enabling work. We're gonna relocate this existing retaining wall further west. If you've been to the site, you can see some of the blocks are already starting to arrive. And then in terms of permitting, you know, this project, this parcel, this campus has been through the full gamut of permitting. And now we're starting to see the residual effect of all those master plans. We have a septic system that serves the entire campus. That system is designed for close to 5,000 gallons per day. We know that we're only using probably 14% of the water, 40% for our daily use, but then ultimately, once we go through the evaporation system, that septic system is getting under 20% usage. So we still have to get a modification from DEM. We'll go through the process, but it's simple enough that we're just gonna be moving septic tanks and appurtenances to tie everything into that, that bottomless sand filter. Same with the well. We have an existing public well. It's serviced by, or it's under the auspice of the Department of Health. It's permitted through the Department of Health, and that's gonna continue to service this campus. You can see that we're using maybe about 40% of the water based on our metering from that well. And again, as it goes through the evaporator, that 40% is reduced to 18% into the septic system. And that's just the original permit we got from DOH back in 2018. Same with stormwater. We expect very little resistance from DEM. We already have wetland applications and RIP these applications in effect. We have a variety of appurtenances in this campus, from the pond that exists. We have a huge underground infiltration system. We have different forebays and ponds, and different ponds to the north that service it. But ultimately, anything from the recon building is just gonna go up and through that detention basin as it does today. So in anything from the Nissan dealership is just gonna go into that existing system, that UIC system as it does today. We will seek a modification of that permit from DEM, but again, we're not building any appurtenances, just like the septic. We're just kind of moving some of the pretreatment pieces around, and that's the original permit that we'll be modifying from 2016. Fire protection, the existing cistern will still be able to service the campus. And then, so in terms of permitting, Mr. Chairman, as Attorney Partington said, we were before you earlier this year for our master plan. We currently have, with DEM, that wetlands application is being modified, that septic application is being modified, and we're here tonight for our preliminary plan, respectfully requesting master be delegated to the administrative officer. Just to hone in on the last slide, Mr. Chairman, for the recommendations, one of the elements was that we would tie to giving our agreement with Lincoln Water to the planning department as part of master plan approval. We'd like you to consider modifying that so that it's not a condition of approval. It's problematic on our end. Respectfully, the Department of Health is the jurisdictional body that controls the water. We have water through our wells. We are pursuing, an agreement offline with Lincoln Water. It's just, we can't have that tied to this because we'll miss this construction season. Item 2, we've complied with. They asked us to record an administrative subdivision. Those are the 2 lots that you see. This 2, item 3, we've complied with. That is, the planner asked us to just shift that line around a little bit to make that a little bit cleaner, which we've done. Again, item 4 is back to the water. The planner asked us to consider hydrants, and we agreed to consider hydrants, but we're in direct conflict with Lincoln Water. They don't want hydrants on this line. And so we're still trying to work that out, but again, we just can't have that tied to this application because time is just of the essence with us in terms of construction. Again, item 5 is that water line extension needs to include provisions for potential extensions. I'm not sure that Lincoln Water is gonna grant that, and we can't have that respectfully hold up this construction. 6 we've complied with, which was a stormwater maintenance plan. And then, of course, 7 we will stipulate to, which is contingent. If you grant approval, it would only be valid when we get the modification from DEM for the septic and for the wetlands. As Scott said, we're all here to answer questions. Bob, he's one of the most hands-on owners I know. He's here in front of you to answer questions that you have. And I am as well. We would just ask, Mr. Chairman, and if we can talk about it a little bit deeper, is that water line.
Any questions, Mr. Keen? You have some questions or comments?
Just a comment. I actually had a problem with the first stipulation anyway. I intended to bring it up. I just can't imagine why we would word a stipulation in this manner that would prevent, if the owner wants to put a water line extension in the ground at his own expense without, why should we make that contingent on an agreement with the Lincoln Water Board first?
Yeah.
It seems to me we should be welcoming that kind of initiative on a property owner. So I don't have any problem at all with changing. I think what it should say is that if they do install any water line infrastructure, that it be done with the approval of the Director of DPW, who oversees the water and sewer superintendent. I don't think we have a full-time superintendent. He retired. I don't think they
Thank you.
replaced him yet.
I believe you hired a new one Monday, had the opportunity to meet him.
Oh, they hired a new one?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, okay.
Had a
Well,
meeting
then
with
in-
the manager, and, so, yeah, I think Attorney Partington, Mark unfortunately isn't here to speak for himself. I remember, as Scott does, there was a lot of back and forth, and that would we consider things, and we absolutely will continue to consider. It's just the stipulation that we're tied to it. We're just on different time periods. As for the DPW director, I believe we went through this progression, and the problem is we're on a state highway, and we're in the town of Lincoln for a portion of it. So there is no point in the project that the Public Works Director, I guess, has the jurisdiction to oversee that.
Well, I could reword it that part of the water infrastructure, should you install any, should be done in accordance with the approval of the I'm talking about the installation standards.
Yeah.
They should meet, that part that's in North Smithfield should be done with the,
Yeah, so this will be a Lincoln water line, even though portions of it will be in the town of North Smithfield. The standards are relatively similar. It's just,
Is it because of the point of origin?
yes, and it's not in our water distribution system. It's in
Right.
Lincoln's. Bob entered a unique public-private partnership where he was allowed, or we're trying to negotiate the extension of that water line to service Anchor and possibly more.
So you're saying even the standards for fittings and all that kind of stuff is driven by Lincoln, even though it's underground in North Smithfield?
Correct.
Okay.
But
So
respectfully,
they want to control the entire
they're all
pipeline.
the same in terms of,
Right, yeah.
you know, mega lugs and ductile iron and cement line pipe. It's, they're both Class A water purveyors, and I wouldn't expect it any different. It's just who's gonna look in the hole and say, yeah,
Yeah.
it says it's
Right,
okay.
gotcha.
That's right.
Once we get it through Lincoln, because we're in state and we're crossing the highway, we gotta get
a physical
state
utility
license.
permit from DOT to put a utility in the state highway, absolutely.
Can I ask a question? So who addresses problems on the North Smithfield side with the Lincoln line if there is such problems?
Right. In this case, it would be Bob, because he's gonna own that line.
Okay.
But normally, when we see communities do it all the time, Johnston selling to Smithfield, it's normally whomever owns the line will be the ones to come
Okay.
in and to fix it. And that's why you need those agreements, so that, in essence, the DOT is going to give Bob or Lincoln Water, an easement and covenant so that they can come in, and what they'll have to do to cut and replace and cap and so forth and so on.
Okay. All right, so, Mr. Kane, your issue was, I would assume, would be having the extension, getting it authorized prior to preliminary approval, because otherwise the rest of it is not. That's really the stipulation, is that it's prior to preliminary approval.
yeah, I just don't know why we worded it this way, where they need the agreement to do anything.
Right. Because we don't think we'll have it for final approval either.
So
Right.
And we want to get,
Understood.
yeah,
Yeah.
so,
This- they could have this conceivably in the ground, something in the ground, at least crossing the highway before the construction takes place there. And then, you know, the agreement could be 2 years down, but at least that infrastructure's in the ground. That was my concern. So I don't think, you know,
I would like to ask you a question in that regard. So, because you're, where you're coming across the highway, the state is obviously gonna be doing a tremendous amount of work there. So I have a couple of questions related to that, but since we're on the water line, if you put in the water line, say you work things out with Lincoln, you get it put in, you're gonna be doing it at current grade. and that grade is gonna change dramatically with the state project. So how will that work?
So we're looking to, you know, and we've been having these discussions with the state and trying to get some enabling work so that we can get our water line in. But when you look at the water line, here's the town line. So a portion of it will be, we already have a manifold that's within our campus. We did that when we built the Anchor Subaru dealership. So the extension is about an 8-inch extension of about 2,000 feet of water main. And the grade will be changing up and over Eddie Dowling will be right under that on Sales Hill Road. So that water line, if it goes in early enough, will be fine, and then we'll just have to. So the change in grade, this, you're gonna have we're gonna be in a hole because this
Right.
is going to be a section. So that water line, as long as it stays under the pavement of Sales Hill Road,
Oh, okay,
will be properly insulated.
Right.
We want to get it done now. We wanna maybe strike a deal with whomever they're going to select to, you know, install this. If not, we're gonna try to install some type of conduit so then we can just slip the line through, because they're never gonna let us cut the highway again.
right. And they're
And,
not, and they're not lowering in any way Sales Hill Road?
No, no.
It'll likely, if I may, I'm working Lynch and Scancia got the contract.
Oh, Scancer, okay, yep, yep.
Scancer. So I'm working with Lynch, I got a meeting hopefully next week. I wanna get their engineers to approve, because they're doing the whole project, right? So
Right.
I'm gonna just show them where I gotta be, and they'll engineer it, I'll write the check and put it in.
Right, because that would be the concern. Obviously, if they, any place that they build up over it, that's not a problem.
That's right.
It's,
They're gonna do it when they put the bridge in, basically, so that'll be
Oh.
them.
so they're gonna do it once they have final grade.
I'm gonna bring in.
That's what we hope.
Well, it depends, well, it depends, yes, but it depends how the bridge foundations go, right?
Mhm.
So I'm gonna leave that up to the engineers. My meeting is, hey fellas, this is what I wanna do. Like Joe said, I've been pushing to sleeve it. You know, I wanna put a, whatever, 12, 24-inch sleeve under it, and then we can push it through, and if it ever fails, we can pull it out.
Pull it out.
You know,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what my head's at, but I'm kind of a rudimentary guy, but, you know, so I'm just gonna work with them, and then I'll pay them to come across the highway, and then I'll work with my independent guys,
Okay.
and maybe even them to bring it all the way, so that's, I haven't gotten that far yet.
We hope when they dig those abutments, so this is a design build, so it's up to the contractor now to tell the state how they're gonna build it. There's no construction documents out there
Right.
telling the contractor how to build it. We're hoping when they dig the abutments and the foundations for the bridge, they're gonna lay a section of
Right.
dry line right through 146
Right.
right of way for us.
It's actually, they did a good job.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, so my concern would be that if we, you know, is that we just need to sort of ensure that what you're saying is gonna take place, right? So once the state is working on their project, you know, which means that if they change the plans and they end up saying, well, we're gonna lower Sales Hill Road by 2 feet, well, then you got a problem, right? And,
It's gonna be
and
done,
that,
but it's gonna happen when they're, I can't go ahead of time, you know what I mean? 'Cause I don't
Well,
know what they're gonna do.
But if I may,
Exactly,
Mr.
right.
Chairman,
and I'm thinking that that's the stipulation that maybe should be, that can't be put in until, it has to be done in conjunction with the project for
The only issue with
Sales Hill Road.
stipulations is if they come back to me and say, look, it can't be part of my project, which I don't know yet, I haven't sat
Mm.
down with these guys. But if they say, you're gonna get it in first, but be 5 foot down, then I gotta get it in, right? So I don't know what they're gonna tell me to do at this
Oh,
point.
you're saying they could give you a conflicting stipulation on the
They
project,
might say,
essentially?
hey, Bob, be 6 feet down and get the thing done before we show up. Because they're starting down the other end, they're starting at the fork of the road.
Right,
That's starting,
right.
maybe, well, they said spring, it sounds like it's getting kicked a little bit, but they're starting down the other end and then they're working their way back. So I'm not, you know, and then maybe a year and a half before they get in front of my place and they say, do this.
Right,
So it's up to their engineers, whatever they say I have to do is what I gotta do,
gotcha.
so.
but should
And
we
I just
not?
don't know what that is, you know?
Right.
But should we not get approval from Lincoln Water, this building and everything that's planned is still permitted and has more than enough domestic water from that well.
It shouldn't even be part of
So,
Yeah.
consideration.
so why the need for the water?
Well, because the standards and the testings from the Department of Health is, yeah, well.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I've been lenient with a lot of times, you're gonna need to get up and introduce yourself and all that stuff and get on the record.
Good point, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry.
We need his
I'm
name.
Robert Benoit, owner of Anchor Subaru, Anchor Nissan, and associated properties.
And no relation to Dr. Benoit.
No relations to Dr.
Thank you.
Benoit. So, obviously, that whole highway's contaminated. The problem everybody has there is a lot of reasons, but some of it is the houses in the back are old and have cesspools and don't have good septic systems. So there's a lot of leaching coming down that hill, so you're getting a lot of E. coli hits. The wells weren't drilled deep, you know. So when I got tripped up on my last project, that well I put in's like, I don't know, whatever, 875 feet in a sealed case the whole way. Like nothing's getting in that thing. But that thing goes sideways, what do I do? So this project started back when 2017, when I did Subaru. I started hitting Romeo down there to say, hey, someday I may need water, because there was a point I couldn't get good water.
Right.
And then they made me put it up in the back. I had to commit the 10 acres in the back for a well, and that's where I put it. It's just, and we passed it, we got water. So the point will be, if that well, for whatever reason, gets contaminated, I'm done. So I always had a long-term plan, and frankly, I got really messed up with those guys, because you know he got canned and all this stuff was going on there. But so I got kind of caught up in that. Time went by. So then once this project on the highway got announced, I said I better get back on the horse a little more aggressively, and that's when it opened up Pandora's box, and I had to almost start over with these guys. So the good news is we're making headway, but
it's a backup plan, is what you're saying. It's a backup plan, a contingency plan, I should say, based on concerns about the long-term effects on the water table.
yeah, because if I had to bring water in by trucks to service this facility, I'd be screwed. So
But either way, if for some reason the state comes and says, you can't put that water line across the
that
highway.
won't happen.
This is all mute.
No, I'll be able to go across the highway,
It's a
but
moot point.
we're way past that.
Well,
one.
it's-
It's just how to do it,
If-
right?
if
That's the
If
question.
Lincoln says no, it's a moot point from our perspective,
Correct.
but then you don't have a contingency plan, but
Right.
that's the risk you're taking, so.
Yeah. I heard rumor that North Smithfield's working one, so we'll see.
That's possible.
And I will say, part of that is, if that happens, I can't do Lincoln. So it's a timing thing. So I'm waiting to hear on the progress on the North Smithfield side, because I don't want to get, 500 grand in, and then all of a sudden, hey, we got Woonsocket, and then they say, forget it, have a nice day, I got nowhere to go. So
Exactly.
I'm kind of like waiting and working it and trying to figure stuff out, so.
Mr. Porter?
So, yeah, I was gonna say, this board right now is dealing with a bit of a what-if situation, and I don't think we should be addressing a what-if situation. This is, again, your contingency plan. My concern is where it comes to the tearing up of Sales Hill Road to the Lincoln border, and that we don't address, if you do move forward with Lincoln, who's gonna be responsible for repairing of the road?
Me.
Okay, so I would say, I would recommend to this board that maybe if, part of the a new stipulation that we add is, if the applicant moves forward with the Lincoln Water, that there at least be a bond carried in place for the road replacement.
I don't know, I understand that section of road to be a state road.
Okay,
So I believe all my permitting and everything I need to deal with is done at the state level.
okay,
I don't think, I mean, I'm doing we're talking about it, I'm not a
Yep.
lawyer, but my instinct is that I was told everything I had to do on that road was state, and, they dictate
Sure.
what I gotta do and how I gotta do it.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Then on my end, I would highly recommend that we make sure that you at least have the documentation saying that you're gonna, take care of the road, either be it through the town or through the state, but that road is gonna be taken care of if it does in fact get
Yeah, it's just
taken care of.
about being clear on responsibility.
Yeah, that's what Mr. Keene said, that the DPW Director, and that's why, that's a little bit of the misnomer, why aren't we going to your public works director for work within Sales Hill Road, because that portion is a state highway. We'll be posting
Okay.
a bond, whether it's with your DPW or DOT.
Or with the
will be
state.
Okay,
Right.
perfect. That was my concern.
They're not gonna hate the bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Ms. Menard had something else. Did you have
So
something? Ms. Menard?
Sales Hill Road, I know for a fact that it's a state highway. I grew up east of 99, and that was always a state highway. But does that state highway of Sales Hill Road stop at the one, at the Eddie Dowling Highway, or does it carry abutting your property as well?
I think it's 20 feet past.
Okay.
Is it 20 or 50 feet past?
That's
Okay.
correct, yeah.
Okay,
It's right about where that red box is, that's where the state right-of-way ends. And,
Okay.
And then the town, a portion of sales is
just
local.
for, like, does the town have to be concerned for bonding? That's where I was concerned.
But
How
that's-
far does it, so that's where we start. The town of North Smithfield starts pretty much there and goes up towards Iron Mine Hill Road.
Yeah, I thought it was a little further.
Mr. King?
Okay, thank you.
If this application came to us without any mention of a potential water main, and this project, and then subsequently, they propose putting in a water line, would that water line come through the planning board, or would that just be something between them and the town?
I think they're exempt from major land developments because it's a public utility.
So,
Right.
Oddly enough, water lines within state highways are exempt from freshwater wetlands. You can put a water line right on South Road, you know, in
Yeah.
Narragansett, and so, yeah. You normally don't have the jurisdiction over, a higher agency. In that case would be a state or federal agency. So anything local or town, excuse me, yeah.
Right.
so I don't
But you're right,
see any.
if we'd never made mention of a water line, all of this confusion would've went away, and then if we ever came back a month later and did the water line, yeah.
Wouldn't even come through us.
Right, we started with the planner and talking about the water line, and, it's important you know about it, I'm glad we discussed it, but we
Yeah.
just wanna separate it from
Sure.
from the decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the water line has any pertinence on this project.
Right.
You have suitable water
That's right.
to satisfy your operation. This is, like he's saying, it's a horseshoe in your back pocket, just in case something happens.
And that well, we're using it at 40%, and, you know, we're not expecting, it's sort of us, we're just moving around the blocks. We're not expecting, you know, an increase in personnel, so forth and so on, that's gonna draw on what we're already drawing.
That was gonna be a question. So at 40% current, but your
Could we-
properties,
Hold on one second. Mr. Porter, is your concern about this, the need for stipulation been resolved?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
so currently you're taxing that well at 40%. But you're building two structures that are gonna gain a little over 26,000 square feet of structure.
Yep.
So I understand that you might increase a few personnel, but now you have a reconditioning area that might utilize more water than you were using. Probably, I'm sure you're not gonna tax it out at 100%.
Yeah.
Where I'm driving with this is, has a concern or has it been raised for the existing cistern that was sized for what was existing on the campus, and now that you're adding 26,000 square feet, does that cistern support?
And I would say it's not the square footage, it's, because I was gonna raise it, it was the reconditioning shop, where lots of water will be used, I assume.
Yeah,
Because one of the
but
primary things in there is to wash the vehicles.
So he's asking two questions. You're asking about the fire cistern.
Right, but I agree with, so they're already doing reconditioning, they're just relocating it, and they might use a little bit more, but they're only using 40% of their well. So if they use another 20%, they're still at 60% of well capacity.
So
Okay.
we're doing reconditioning now in two locations within the
Right.
campus, and then we'll be able to centralize it.
Okay.
And then,
Okay.
you're correct, we are adding a building, but we're also removing this existing building that's
I know.
on
It's a
hold.
trade-off.
So that's administration and reconditioning, and that's Nissan. If we can get Nissan there, reconditioning up top, and administration here, we will have one extra building, but it's more for just our operations we're moving. Bob, do you expect any increase in personnel? I'm sure it'd be nice, but,
I mean, a lot of our recondition, some of the problems, a lot of what we do is outside.
yeah.
You know, so you gotta replace a windshield and send the guys outside,
Mhm.
you know, so the issue is what that building's gonna allow us is to be able get them warmed
I
up, and then
understand.
put the glass in, do this. So,
Gotcha.
no, I mean, I run 150, 160 people kind of all the time. You know, I'm past doing much more, you know, I just want to do it more efficiently. And
Mhm.
some of the buildings right now are cramped. And I learned a lot with the Subaru dealership. I mean, I added a few people there, but we just got better, you know, it got more efficient, it was a better flow. So that, you know, we sized everything assuming it was gonna be bigger, and then we ended up kind of flatlined and doing more business, but it's just more efficient, so it didn't change the meter on water or septic.
No, I understand, that first question was answered.
The cistern is
Already,
getting
but the
into power
cistern-
through the fire gate. So-
Right.
So
Right, that-
all, I will comment that all the buildings are built correctly in that the limiter was 11.7.
That's right.
So the fire partitions are at 11.7, everything's designed just the way it's supposed to be. I would be surprised if they impacted it, because they would all have to go be on fire at the same time to change.
No, I understand that, but just that your building that you're gonna be demolishing and reconstructing anew, you're almost doubling its size. That was my concern for the system, not the fact of the third building.
Well, have we gotten, fire department, has fire department had their say on?
I don't believe we have met with the Marshall Gotland, but we would stipulate to
Because
that.
that would be for their,
That's Maury now.
Yeah, I'll say just for point, it's not Marshall Gotland anymore.
That's correct, he retired?
No, we're on to a
New job. Maury,
all right.
Marshall Maury.
But that would be, so that would be their topic to,
That'd be part of the building
To the-
permit, I would suspect.
Right.
right? So it would be for them to address their concern
So,
about the system.
all right, so with the building permit part of that would have nothing to do with our approval with the system?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you. And my question's answered, thank you.
So I had a two-part question since we were talking about the moving of the highway. The second part is that it was mentioned about moving, I guess, the frontage back. And I
Yes.
heard a number of like 60 feet or something, and you mentioned, so could we see that?
Yeah, it's this line,
No,
Hold on.
no, I'm talking about where you're talking about the retaining wall.
There's no
Yeah,
frontage.
no movement of frontage.
Oh.
There was enabling work, and let me get to it. So we're not changing the frontage at all. We have an existing wall here. And so this parking is at
Okay.
grade, and all of this, you have to get up the access road.
Gotcha,
And so we wanna have all of this at grade.
gotcha.
And so, we're gonna remove this section of wall and replace it. And so we're just pushing that back, that's about 65 feet. Frontage is not being changed at all.
Okay, so even with the new, with the changes being made for 146, as you said, now we'll be looking down into your parking lot, but it does not change your frontage line at all?
No, and that's why it was,
Okay.
it was a shovel-ready, a shovel-ready project. If it stayed within the state highway line, within the right-of-way, they didn't have to do environmental impact statements and all of the, different environmental work that would have hung it up. And so while it hurts us that we couldn't have had a different type of interchange here, and it has to be a vertical one, it's gonna put this building in the hole, which is why we're pushing it here. One of the simple effects is, though, it's gonna have no change to
Okay,
our property line.
great, thank you. Dr. Brilliant?
Yes. Just for clarification in my own mind, are we thinking of scrapping stipulations 4 and 5 completely?
That's what we would request, 1, 4, and 5.
Yes, 1-4.
To just be,
1, 4, and 5.
Okay.
Yep.
yes.
Now, I have one other. Mr.
ahead.
Casali, could you show me where the existing septic
Yes.
is and where you're going to modify it?
Yes, so, currently, there is a very large bottomless sand filter, that's right on this property line. Anchor owns this large 10-acre piece. So that bottomless sand filter today, takes effluent from the existing, administration building, the existing Subaru dealership and Nissan, We're not gonna make any changes to this. We just need to, I've gotta modify this septic tank and this pump, and I need to add a septic tank here and a pump. And, so we're not gonna change the field at all, but anytime you touch a pipe and appurtenance, a tank or cover, you've gotta get a modification, resubmit an as-built so they know exactly, what it is.
What's the distance between the bottomless sand filter and the well?
The sand filter in the well, I believe it's about 300 feet. I can get an exact number for you. It's more than the 200-foot requirement from the Department of Health and DEM.
Did you get a waiver for that distance?
No.
No.
No, that is a very difficult waiver to get, to put a septic field within the radius of a public well, especially if it doesn't exist today. Yeah. We're over 350 feet.
I'm not questioning if you've got it legally
Yeah.
met. I'm just wondering what the distance was.
Yeah, it's more than, it's about 350. As Bob said, one, the wellhead is up gradient of the septic system, but that surface water or anything leaching out of that septic system, that well is 687. 875, that's ridiculous, deep, with a casing. I mean, normal wells are 300, 400 feet. I've seen them 5, 6. To be down that deep is serious investment in draw of water. So that encasement prevents all the surface water from coming in and getting to the well. The well, it's encased all the way down, and there's only a certain section that's in an aquifer 850 feet below grade that we draw from. That's the basis of if someone says to you a well is encased.
I'm all set, thank you.
I have a couple architect questions. There are, you're increasing, having quite a footprint with, based on paved area and your flat roofs and everything. So and we've talked a lot about water this evening, so I didn't know if there were any green initiatives that you were looking at, such as installing solar panels on the roof, incorporating a gray water system, just some of those, some newer ideas just to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the most progressive one's the evaporator.
The solar, the roofs they weren't designed for the weight, so I'm not a big solar guy, so I'm not going there. What I do is so ordinarily, because we're in that watershed area that Bonnie was talking about, you have to tank all the water and truck it away. So all the floor drains, everything in all the buildings gets tanked. So what we did, I built a system where all the buildings, every floor drain, except the ones that go to the septic system, but all the other floor drains go into an enclosed system and get brought up to the evaporator, which is right near the recon building. So there's a couple of 5,000-gallon tanks that pump up to it, that's all monitored by Green Water and all those guys. And that has a waste oil burner in it. So what it does is it takes 95% of the water, steams it off down to a byproduct, and then that pushes into a 2,000-gallon tank. And that automatically, when it gets to like 3/4, emails the company, the soup guys, and they come down and they pump it out and take it. Because it was like, the thousands and thousands of gallons we generate, obviously, washing, doing what we do. So that was a way to, we used our waste oil, we didn't have to pay to get rid of the waste oil, we used it, so we had, and that was a whole process. That was like, they steam it, they test it, the air people looked at it, and the byproduct people looked at it. I mean, it was like a big process, but it got, it was approved and it was cool, and that's what we did. So that's the biggest thing I do on that site, and then we obviously, to the right of that septic system, there's, dumpsters there, we recycle the metals, the cardboards, the trash goes separately, and that's kind of what we do.
So even though
All the buildings are 100% heated by waste oil. I have backups, but the entire campus, everything I build, everything I do, all the snow melt on the ground, all the stuff we do, is all done with waste oil.
So So our meters on our septic system are telling us we're only at 18% capacity, even though the meters on the well are telling us we're using 40% because of that evaporator. And because of that bottomless sand filter, he has completely redone all of the chemicals, the way we clean in that building. No, you know, that is one of the floor strippers and so forth and so on. When you end up in an innovative alternative septic system like that, that's the first thing that'll destroy them. So that's been changed.
We don't put that in there, that's all goes to the evaporator.
And also, all of the lighting over the last few years has now been, I think there was hundreds of thousands of dollars in investments. Those are all LED, dark sky compliant lights. It was worth it in terms of, you know, hopefully the break-even period. But that's one of the things that we are now seeing that we struggle with solar, is if you don't make the decision early on to size those beams and that foundation for them. It's a nice idea, but you're gonna know up front, and if you don't, it's just too expensive to retrofit it.
Yeah.
You gotta figure out who makes the money.
Yeah.
Every time I sat down with those guys, they felt like.
Yeah.
Now, we are under an operation and maintenance plan with DEM. They're reasonably strict with us because some of our wastewater that discharges easterly goes into a cold water fishery, and because of the public well, the contamination. So in terms of green, we don't have the typical green roof and so forth and so on, but Bob's pretty progressive in terms of environmental.
No, that's good to hear.
Yeah. I've never seen an evaporator in 30 years. It's a pretty cool technology.
Great. Yeah, because I know a lot of public Massachusetts jobs that we do now, it's all, every public building now has to be solar ready.
Has to be, yeah.
Regardless. So it's always just if we're seeing a 29,000 square foot footprint, it's always nice if we could at least encourage it to be appropriately sited. My other question was, I know that you like to show off the inventory and everything. I'm also get concerned about heat island effects. Are we going to be, where you're relocating that retaining wall, are you proposing to put any greenery kind of in that gray area? Okay.
No, but the heat island is a,
Went there with a plowing, when we're plowing, you can't, you gotta be like, I do all my own snow removal, all them loaders in the back are all for snow removal. In between cars, moving the cars, it's like
Yeah.
a Rubik's Cube, it's like that.
Yeah, I was just more thinking of the
Like
retaining.
10 inches in the back.
Yeah, the retaining wall area was more where, you know, you won't be able to store cars and it won't interfere with. Okay,
Yeah, it's all
Okay.
cars. I'm bringing that wall back and up.
okay,
There'll be
there's
cars
no,
on the top, cars
okay,
on the bottom. The real reason why that's, the major reason why that's being done is for service cars. Because with the Nissan store, now I have, you know, whatever, 30 customer cars every night, whatever, so. And I don't want to have to go up top, I don't want to have
Gotcha.
delays climbing up. So I had to move, I didn't plan ahead on that one, I should have done.
well, when we built the wall, 146 wasn't an element, and you never
Yeah,
thought
this is
Nissan
all
would go.
happening Because they're putting that bridge over me, my Nissan store, they're gonna be staring at my roof.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought that property for, you know, to be on the corner and do, you know, out the window.
Yeah.
So that's life, you know.
Talk about a
Yeah.
corner lot.
Just trying to clean it up now, that's
Right.
all.
so then, my only other comment based on the discussions tonight that, and Mr. Casali kind of alluded to it, that, you know, we need to have the cistern reviewed by the fire department and the fire marshal and just get his sign off that it's appropriate. That would be the only, after tonight's hearing, that would be the only additional stipulation that I would add, in addition to the other ones that we have put forth and removed.
Right.
Yeah, and that's quite large, that's a 20,000,
Yeah.
if I
Yeah.
remember.
Is that, you're not an attorney, you guys can talk, but if it's a stipulation, I wanna move forward, like, I wanna break ground next week.
Yeah, well,
So-
I'm sure he's on the routing slip anyway to get the building
But
permit.
that would be part of the building permit.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so you'd have to get it done
Yeah.
before you can start anyway, so. Does that mean we,
Doesn't need to be a.
yeah, it doesn't even need to be a
That's
stipulation
gonna
if
be
it's part of the,
review process when the plans go to the
Okay.
fire department.
yeah. Bobby, maybe that's something you can make note, because you have to kick off the process with, to get fire and all that involved, or is that done through the? Yeah, so why don't you do that and just mention this?
That's automatic for the building
Right.
inspector.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, state law.
We got a new guy now, too, don't you there? What's his name?
Larry Enright.
No, fire marshal.
No, the building.
Oh, yeah,
inspector.
yeah.
Right.
We saw him, he walked past us, yeah.
I didn't know who he was.
So, any other questions or comments from the board?
I just have a question that has nothing to do with contingents or just curiosity. So with this 146 being done over, I know our previous approval was for that lot that housed, I forget how many vehicles, off of Sales Hill Road, where you raised the structure and then you made parking. How are you gonna, off of 146, how are you gonna get to that? You'd have to go through your campus to get to that?
The one, lot 15? Yeah. That's already constructed.
No, I understand, it's constructed.
It's
But,
right there.
right, but the access for that is only off of,
No,
No, it's off Sales Hill Road.
oh, okay, that's right, okay, it blocked off Sales Hill Road,
Yeah,
and it's through your campus.
Yeah.
yeah.
So the only, unfortunately for you now, your only access to your campus is gonna be off of 146, correct?
No, that.
No, they still have off Sales Hill Road.
Right, but for cars, there's not gonna be any off-ramp
Customers.
off of
No.
And
146.
that's the detriment, you're gonna have to know to get off at an earlier intersection.
That's what I'm getting at. So you're not gonna have the customer bases coming right off 146.
Right, if you
Well-
see us, you pass us, and you're
Are
gonna
you
know.
are you losing the curb cut
No.
that's further
So,
north? Right.
Picture in front of the ice rink, right? Picture, you know how that's got
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
access road? if you
Okay.
will? The difference is in Jersey barriering, excuse me. So that Jersey barrier is gonna start somewhere around the AT&T building, the old AT&T building.
The one that's been vacant for a year and a half, 2
Yeah,
years? Okay.
and then it's gonna be on the other side, somewhere just after the old Honda truck.
Okay,
So the issue is, and the big issue that I went round and around with the state on, and we got contingent, they're gonna have a ton of signage starting, and by the way, you see what they do with that fork, it's gonna be amazing, they're gonna clean that right. They have a great plan there, but the signage starts past that rest area,
mhm,
because you can get on that business access route at that rest area, and then a couple of spots along the way before the AT&T building.
okay.
So we're putting all business signs.
Yeah, I know,
with
it had
the-
nothing to do with this project, it was just concern for
But,
your
yeah,
business,
the
that you're
point-
making a major
The
investment in the
moral
town.
of the
and-
story is, think of it this way, you got 4 lanes, 2 each way going down the center. The lanes on the outside, those are gonna be the business access lines that are gonna
Right.
run on Sales Hill Road and access all
Yeah.
the businesses.
It's gonna eliminate all the problems with acceleration, deceleration, and
Correct.
all that kind of stuff.
I'm not sure, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things that'll help, there's
Yeah.
certain things that's gonna hurt, but look, I think at the end of the day, I get it, it's a tough spot, a lot of accidents,
Yeah.
a lot of.
Yeah.
It's the most daily traffic in the state
Listen,
at
I
a
was
signalized
6 years
intersection.
old when we moved on Sales Hill Road,
Mm.
and
Yeah,
at night with no air conditioning, you could hear the trailer truck stopping
Yeah.
at that, and like, all you heard was do-do-do-do-do.
Yeah.
So that's gonna go, and you see the ripple there, if
And
you
they-
drive,
Yeah.
right now it's resurfaced,
They still have the potholes from
But-
that, right?
I think the big thing they gotta do honestly is enforcement. That was one of my big things with the state, was during this construction, and then at the time, I think it was Gary, was the administrator, when it started. I said, you guys gotta watch enforcement, because the worst thing that can happen is you come up over that bridge at 75 miles an hour. Like, we gotta knock that down a little bit.
Yep.
But other than that, it's as good as they could do and not a bad design, so.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
hurts me a little, but I think big picture it'll work out, that's life.
Right.
Move forward. Life's about looking out the windshield, not the rear view.
Exactly.
well, your name is already established out there, so they're going for you
Yeah,
now,
it's-
not,
It's a little bit of a planned purchase behavior,
Right.
but the eyeballs on the car matter too, so
Yeah.
hence
Right.
why we gotta move the building, you know.
understood.
All right, if there's no other questions and comments, we are obligated to open up for a public hearing. So
Make a motion that we open the public hearing?
I have a motion to open the public hearing,
At what time?
Second.
and we have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is open at 8:19. Anyone from the public may step forward, introduce yourself, ask a question.
Just like-
Anybody at all?
Just like Hallowell.
Don't be
Oh, yeah.
Don't be bashful. Well, hearing none,
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
we have a motion to close the public hearing. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? And we managed to close it at 8:19 also. Thank you for the efficiency in that.
You didn't want to get the seconds in there?
Huh?
You didn't want to get the seconds in
No,
there?
I didn't. So, so with that, I think we just have we're looking for a vote. Right?
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yes.
go over the stipulations so I make sure
Oh,
that we have
absolutely.
them correct?
Sure.
So we removed item number 1, 4, and 5.
Correct.
I think we will leave number 2, that they will do the
Yeah.
administrative subdivision.
Right.
Number 6,
Number 3 also.
number 3 is completed.
Oh, that's right, that one is
So
already
that's
completed and
eliminated.
filed?
That is completed already.
Okay, so that's already been done.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Number 6, the stormwater maintenance plan,
Mhm.
I think is due before the final. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah, we have, I think we filed that, but it'll be part of our DEM application, so,
Okay,
we certainly can send a copy over.
okay.
And then number 7 would stay?
And number 7 will stay.
Do we need preliminary to say final, then?
And the fire marshal and the cistern will consult with the fire marshal. And then I didn't know whether you wanted a,
That's not.
No, we're not going to do that anymore, because the
We're not
building
They're gonna do that
inspector is
because
going to
they're
take
gonna
care
do
of
it as
that.
part of getting the building permits anyway,
okay.
so we don't need to state it.
How about the bond? You were talking about a bond on the part of the road that belongs to North.
No, we're not going to stipulate that either.
Okay,
Right.
We're ju- We're just,
In the back pocket.
all right, so we have 3 stipulations.
Yep.
Okay,
Correct.
Got it.
we were just highly recommending that we're notified of bonding and stuff like that.
okay.
What was the part you mentioned about preliminary? Changing
So
some
it
wording?
says prior to preliminary approval, prior to final approval,
Where's that?
under number 7.
Oh, okay.
Final.
Yes, just changing preliminary to final on number 7.
Preliminary approval should be contingent on those permits.
No, but now we're gonna change it to final because we're voting on preliminary tonight.
I think we were gonna make it contingent. The preliminary approval would wait until we got those approvals.
Huh?
Is that agreed, Joe?
I think they were contingent upon, and then final administratively, so when he has those 2 approvals, he's automatically gets the final.
Okay,
And you don't want, well, you can, but you may not need to come back to this board just to show them.
This is
Yeah, this is,
That's okay.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying, change it to final.
Right, so change that. to
it's up to you, the board, if you want to do the final administratively, or if you would like
Right,
them to
that'd
come
be a
back.
that'd be a second vote.
Okay.
But the first thing is to make change number 7 from preliminary to
Yeah.
final. So, so with that, now we've clarified the 3 stipulations that remain,
Mhm.
and be looking for a motion to approve preliminary. We can vote up yea or nay on that.
I'll make a motion to approve preliminary with the 3 stipulations as changed and the 4 stipulations eliminated.
Second.
And we have a second. So, any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Fournier?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. Menard?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So we have a second item before us is to consider doing final approval administratively. Any comments, questions on that?
I'll make that motion.
Well, I was first asking,
comments.
any comment,
No comments.
anything?
I
Okay.
can read it after the motion, you ask for
Then in
comments.
that case, you can,
After the motion.
well, we can discuss it first and then, yeah.
All right, no discussions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so,
So
go
I
ahead.
can make a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that final approval can be done administratively.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. So again, roll call vote. Mr. Fournier?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Keen?
Yes.
Mr. Menard?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
When you're breaking ground.
I want it next week, so we'll have to see where it goes. Try to get a foundation permit.
Go over with your
All
shovel,
right,
you can have.
so with that,
I can at least get that in before the.
yeah,
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
We have a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. We are adjourned at 8:25.
You know, if we didn't talk so much,